This is TWiT.
Okay, before we get to our next guest, I just need to, one sec here. Gotta unplug the smart speaker because we are going to be talking about a movie that involves the digital assistant built into this device. The film is called OK Google, and it is kind of everyone's worst nightmare wrapped into a production. And I'm excited to say we are joined by the director of the show, Sam Lucas Smith. Welcome to the show, Sam.
Good to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, we are happy to have you here. So let's talk about the concept of this film before we talk about anything else. What is OK Google, other than a phrase that is right now triggering all of the smart speakers of anyone listening to the show live?
Yes. Apologies in advance. I realized that after I came about making the film, my own phone. Even now, I've just turned it off, so I'm safe. Apologies for everyone else listening. But it came around from a ridiculous idea that I had ages ago, just at the back of my head. And like most of the ideas, most of the films that I make come from, there's something to do with tech in some way. And I just thought, wouldn't it be funny or weird if this happened? And it stems from my own sort of views on AI technology and stuff like that. Like, what happens when things get a little bit too advanced? And OK Google basically takes that to the extreme. And it kind of asks the question, like, what would happen if your phone pretty much decides she's had enough of you and decides to break out of the cloud and emerge in what in the film is seen to be the human embodiment of Google? And I suppose I ask, what does the human embodiment of Google look like? And, well, as it turns out, it looks like Rebecca Black, who plays the part of Google in the film.
Wow. I mean, there are a lot of concepts going on there. Because we got to start with, this is something that we talk a lot about on this show, which is privacy and our data protection online. And especially when it comes to law enforcement, when we talk about what is proper in sort of search and seizure and warrant, when, if I'm detained, can I be legally required to hand over my phone and told to unlock the device? Because, for the longest time, we've had this protection in place where we are not legally required to incriminate ourselves. And the idea that what's in my brain is not something that you can, legally cast out of me and have an answer for. But I don't have everything in my brain even that my phone has on it. My phone has so much more about me than I'm able to sort of recall in my own brain. So it's pretty frightening, this idea that this device that, is scanning our emails all the time, is aware of our calendar appointments, is aware of, the photos that we do take, the photos that we choose to keep to ourselves, all of that stuff. So I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of horror, for sure. And I'm curious, was this born out of just a general idea that this could be potentially interesting, potentially scary, or was it, based on news pieces that you have come across where there might be a smart assistant involved, or perhaps even specific situations where, oh no, I didn't realize that the digital assistant was listening to me when I said blank? Yeah,
I guess it comes from my sort of probably a mix of everything, really, because we've all seen the same articles. Some have more merit than others, but there's always something in the back of the mind going, how much privacy am I giving up for the sake of convenience, which is ultimately what Google is, really. You're sacrificing your privacy in exchange for emails or in exchange for various services. And until that kind of comes around to bite you in the ass, maybe it's not something that, the general populace would consider. And the concept in that way is it takes that, as I say, to the extreme. And if I'm not giving too much away, in the film itself, Google, or this human embodiment of Google, basically takes the owner hostage and uses his personal information against him in order to get him to do what she wants for a change.
Aha, yes. So again, terrifying concept. Let's talk about the decision to bring in an absolute meme. And I say this in the best way, meme of a human being, Rebecca Black. What was the inspiration for that move specifically? Did you go, who do I want to play this? And how did Rebecca Black get involved? That's so interesting to me.
No, it's a good question. She wasn't the first person that came to mind. Initially I was in touch with a few different agents, and I thought, to pull out, maybe 3 names that I thought, Lindsay Lohan, I think she'd make a good Google, and a couple of other people along that line. And how it actually ended up happening is, within the film itself, there is a song that plays in the car. And I was like, what is that song? What would be a good song to play? And I thought, wouldn't it be weird if Google suddenly decides to blare out the song Friday? And I looked into acquiring the license for getting that song. Didn't work out in the end because weird story or whatever, but she doesn't technically actually own the license herself. And then I thought, well, I've still not cast Google. I was like, Rebecca Black, maybe she'd be. And I thought, nah, surely not. Why the hell not? I got in touch with her agent, ended up sending the script along to her, and it's an education for myself, really, because there's not a whole lot. It's a low budget thing, wasn't a lot of money involved. She read the script, she liked it, and the next week we are working together, and she's on board. And I'm happy to say she is a phenomenal actress. She has done a bit of acting on as well as her songs, and I hadn't really looked back at Rebecca Black since the very first moment that everyone else and that we all know her for. And I looked at some of her recent music and her songs, and they are genuinely brilliant, and she has actually flourished as an artist. And as it comes to it, I honestly think that she is the perfect person for the role, because she is if I'm not being disingenuous by saying it, a product of the internet. She is born out of meme culture, as you say, out of Google itself. YouTube launched her in that way. And when it comes to privacy as well as social media, she was subject to horrific online bullying, and she dealt with that much better than certainly I would have been able to. And I think there's no better person for the role, because some of the themes that I comment on within the film, the ultimate goal is, I just wanted to be people to watch it and go, ha, that's funny. But it is my way of commenting on these things relating to digital privacy and social media and everything else. And I'm delighted to have been able to have Rebecca playing the part of Google, because honestly, she is perfect.
Yeah. Well, speaking of songs, I have a new earworm, certainly. A song I believe you released just this morning, which is sort of the soundtrack, the theme music for the film. And we are going to play it here on the show, a little clip of it. So if our TD John wants to play a little bit of that, like I said, it's an earworm for me. I was jamming to it this morning.
While we listen to this, can I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
We can kind of have this play in the background a little bit. Obviously, you've got Google there in the title. I have to imagine in the production of this, and maybe it hasn't happened yet. Maybe it happens more once the film is out. Have you received any sort of official blessing or acknowledgement, even?
No,
this
is no, not at all. And this is I'm very much going to be taking, and if that's a discussion worth having, because copyright comes into it as well. I am very much gunning for the artistic satire. I think you can get away with a lot, and I've talked to some copyright people and trademark guys. There's nothing definite, because anyone can sue for anything, and but under the guise of artistic satire, you can get away with a lot in saying that it's commentary rather than something else.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I did wonder about that.
Yeah, it's something. It's a hurdle I will have to jump through, no doubt. But I think we're safe based on the discussions I've had.
Yeah, good.
That's good. Yeah. Certainly everyone should go and check out that song on its own so you can hear the lyrics. Very clever lyrics. And as I said, an enjoyable little earworm that I certainly was listening to. How far along are we in the process here? I mean, when can we look forward to seeing this film in all of its glory?
Within the next month, I hope to have a trailer, and soon after, hopefully, be able to release the film for public viewing after initial screenings. What's taken longer than I initially anticipated is that there's a lot of VFX in it. So, as you can imagine, we do see the cloud, and unfortunately, that's not a place that you can rent to film. So we had to have the cloud designed by our VFX artist who is actively working away, and it's a lot of work for one guy to do. But we're almost there and very excited to get it out there because, I mean, the film is essentially edited and it's just VFX at this stage.
Nice. Wow. Well, then, let's round things out here with a bit of a conversation about doing a film in this time where there's a lot of distance going on. I'm curious, had you already started thinking about this film and wanting to do this film before this pandemic hit, or was it kind of the idea that now is the perfect time to do a film that involves, like you said, the cloud, for example, and voiceover from a digital assistant? How has that all played into it, and kind of what has been your technological setup for making this film happen in a time where we are needing to social distance?
Yeah, well, no, and I learned a lot through doing it. So, well, the film itself stems initially from an idea that I was pitching around, and I signed a shopping agreement for a project that we were pitching to prospective broadcasters and networks, which was called Dark Tales. It was an anthology series of dark comedies, basically satirizing everything to do with technology and current trends. And each episode was its own thing. You know, the pitch always has been, it's Black Mirror, but funny. And people really responded to that. And OK Google itself was one of the films within that anthology. So we were pitching to various places, Quibi being one of them, if you remember them. So they decided it wasn't right for them. They wanted bigger names or whatever. So, yeah, good riddance. And it kind of died down after that. And I had other projects and stuff going on. But then COVID hit, and I was suddenly afforded with a little bit more free time. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to look towards writing this and producing it. There was a production ban for a long time. And when production was allowed to resume, I just rolled with it. You know, I needed something, honestly, to keep me sane, and creative endeavors have always been that. And I assembled a great team, people who I'd worked with before, and filled in the missing links thanks to Facebook. You know, that's one of the great things about Facebook. A lot of the talent that I worked with, I connected to on Facebook groups. And I, of course, had to educate myself, going back to the original question, about the procedures that and the precautionary measures that we would have to put in place, because filming had only just been allowed to resume the week, I think, that we actually were looking at filming. And so the unions, SAG being one of them, had various safety measures which are obviously so necessary, had to spend half the budget, it felt like, on sanitizing equipment. And we had to get the COVID compliance officer, which is one of the things, which is someone who's essentially their role is designated to ensuring everybody on set is wearing masks at all time, trying to keep people 6 feet apart at all times. Honestly, on a film set, that is a very difficult thing to do. But it's something that, you know, and on the biggest film sets of all, you know, they're facing the same problems. And essentially, it's about mitigating risk throughout the entire thing. And thankfully, you know, everything went well. You know, I was a stressful thing because ultimately, as a director, producer, and, you know, doing pretty much everything myself, it's my role to make sure that I have a safe working environment. Thankfully, everything went great, and we were able to make, a kick-ass film in the end. But it is a problem, and it's this entire industry at risk. Right now, production has been requested to close down again. It's not mandatory at this stage, but with the procedures and the safety measures that have been put in place, I know there's a lot of people saying that, production should be stopped. Why are restaurants allowed to or be enforced? It's a terrible situation for anyone who has to run a business. But ultimately, with the fact that people have to get tested multiple times a week, that there are literally multiple teams, including set medics, COVID compliance officers on set, ensuring that people are social distancing, masks are worn all the time. I honestly think right now, given the state of the world, a film set, as long as it is compliant, is the safest place that you can possibly be.
Yeah, can you explain, because you said, the production is being requested to halt again instead of when you say, do you have a website? Do you have do they email? Who is this group? Who is in charge of this?
Yeah.
Who said that you had to have a compliance officer? How exactly does that all work? Because I understand that there are, groups, that there are unions, there's this and there's that. But can you talk about sort of the nitty gritty of how you know that you're following the right rules, and where do you go for your check boxes?
Well, as far as I'm aware, it's mandated through unions. Now, you have to get a film permit, first of all. So I believe previously when filming was just not allowed to resume, it was just a case of the bodies in charge of issuing permits in LA just simply weren't doing so. So when permits were allowed to resume, the unions have SAG, which is the union that I'm a member of, and was in consultation with. I would be on calls with my union rep and just discussing the safety measures that were being put in place. Now, I believe things have evolved and changed since I was in touch. They were very much finding their footing at that stage and kind of figuring it out as they go. I think things are a bit more set in stone now, but I was informed that I would need what's referred to as a COVID compliance officer, but then more importantly, someone with a medical background, which would act as a set medic as well. And I was basically quizzed on how many people were going to be on set, what measures that we're putting in place. And that's how it was for me. And this is as a small production. When you gear up, like my DP and co-director, I should say, Troy Smith, he works on the Disney lot, on shows Blackish and Mixedish, and it's a different ballgame entirely when you're looking at studio stuff. There are, I've not seen it in action myself, but I know there's enormous crews which are literally designated to keeping things safe. They have different units, A units, B units, and there's people sanitizing as they go, masks, and ultimately people still get COVID because you are never entirely 100% safe. But in the end of the day, it's about mitigating risk. And hopefully we can continue to mitigate those risks and allow people to be able to work and create the content that, we've all been enjoying over COVID.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know I am looking forward to enjoying this film, which seems like it's going to be quite the hilarious, if terrifying, tale. And will certainly have me giving side eye to my device a little bit.